you, man. How are you?
Grand, Charlie.
It's nice to talk to you, by the way.
Cheers, Charlie.
I had a semi-unceremonious departure from 2.5, as I'm sure know.
Yeah.
It was globally documented. And so I felt like it was, there was some unfinished business there. And I felt bad the way things went, this and that, but things happen and you move on, you know.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to just throw in the towel and I don't know, create the illusion or imply that situation had finished me, you know. So I wanted to get back to work. And there were a host of ideas that were thrown my way. And none of them really made any sense. And then I was getting ready to just take a long break. And I had a meeting at a company called Lionsgate, and they pitched the idea based on the film, you know, or loosely based on the film, rather. And then I met the wonderful Bruce Helford, and we hit it off immediately. And he laid out how the show would go, and I said, let's do this, and here we are chatting. It was a moderately impossible schedule because we were scheduled to do 100 episodes in a very short time, you know.
Yeah. And Charlie, one of the things I noticed speaking to some of the cast members like Aldo Gonzalez, Daniela Bobadilla, Laura Bell Bundy was the idea that you played a prominent role in the casting of all these people, that you were actually on the auditions and you did scenes with them in relation to the auditions as well. So you were it was very meticulous in relation to the casting of all the characters under the show. And is that something that you wanted to have an involvement straight off to know what sort of characters that you wanted to know, that what would have made Anger Management such a great success as it was?
Yeah, you know, it wasn't about wearing so much the producer hat or being in charge or wielding any power. It was about wanting to cast these roles perfectly with the best talent that was out there, you know, and it was really hard to decide because the people that came in were all so fabulous, but the ones that really shined were the ones that we ultimately focused on and hired, you know. But there was, for instance, the young lady that played my daughter, Daniela. They were really set on another girl, and she was terrific. There's no question. But there was something about Daniela that I thought was just a little bit more suited, you know. And so during her audition, she went, and they were like, "We're not sure." And I said, "Let me go talk to her. Let's give it another shot." I'd give her a few notes, and they said fine. And she came back in and she killed it and got the job right there in the room, you know.
Yeah, and Charlie, continue. Yeah.
I was just going to say, but you don't really need to audition Barry Corbin. You know what I'm saying? When they say he's available and he's playing that, it's just high fives, you know.
Yeah. And Charlie, one of the things that sort of struck me about Anger Management was the variety in the cast in relation. You went from a sitcom where the two and a half men was mainly the interaction between yourself and John Cryer back and sort of forth in relation to the Charlie and the character in relation to the two brothers, Alan Harper, the two brothers live in the house. But in Anger Management, we see the likes of Wayne, we see Cleo, we see Ernesto, we see Lacey, we see Patrick, we see Ed, we see Sean, we see a multiple of characters in relation. So the storylines, even though Charlie played a prominent role in all the storylines, there was many plots and subplots going along the way. So it was sort of rich in diversity on the show. It wasn't compared to Two and a Half Men, where it was primarily focused on the goings of Charlie and Alan the whole time. In this show, show, you were able to create plots around Wayne and storylines that fed onto other episodes.
Yeah, of course, and that was quite a relief. I got to tell you, because on 2.5, you basically had everything divvied up between three people, and I've always been a fan of a show when you're not seeing the main guy, at least you're hearing about him, so you feel like he's still present and he's still involved, which was so refreshing on Anger to actually, have days where you could come in a little later and didn't carry the lion's share the whole time. Even though the first 20 or 30 episodes I was very heavy, and they started to see the value and the talent and the diversity of all those other brilliant characters and all that talent, and really rely on them for stories that I could sort of kickstart and then leave in their brilliant hands, So I think it's I think it's important for an audience not to tire of a character because he's on screen in every scene. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you. And Charlie, you had a project called 90s, a sort of 9-episode sort of plot where if you hit a certain amount of number ratings, you'd be taken on for an extra sort of shows to bring you up to the 100 sort of shows. So in relation to that, did you know after maybe the 3rd or 4th show airing that you were going to hit that target?
Well, we had a really good debut, especially internationally. But they, and we had a great number in Canada, which was really inspiring. And then, you know how fickle people are and how short everyone's attention span is. Then we had a little lull in the middle, but we finished strong. So it's the cumulative total of those first 10 that activate the next 90. So we knew that the math was in our favor about 3 episodes from those first 10 all airing, and then when we got green lit, we were doing 2 shows a week, and sometimes 2.5 or 3 shows a week based on material that had to be carried over from previous weeks. There's still probably maybe 15 or 18 shows in that batch of 100 that I've still not seen. And what's interesting, Jim, is that is that when I watch 2.5, not that I sit around watching it, that would be sort of embarrassing. But if I'm changing the channels and I stumble upon it and I'll watch for a scene or two, I can tell you the punchline to every joke that's being set up while I'm watching it because you spend an entire week. When I stumble across Anger, it is a complete surprise because I cannot really remember everything we did because of the pace that we did it at. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And you were saying you were sometimes shooting 2 episodes a week. And in relation to that, like, I know you'd have some characters who in the show, like, who might have only been there for the 1 episode, or Ernesto or Aldo Gonzalez that might be in for a certain 1 or 2 episodes. But when you're the primary character and you're shooting 2 episodes a week and you're going over 2 sort of scripts, layering them off by hand, and then there's probably subtle changes that happen in relation to lines and sequences. How demanding or rigorous is that in relation to that sort of hectic sort of time frame where you know yourself that 3/4 of the material is in your primary character, and to get to roll that out? Or is that something you grew accustomed to from your time in 2.5 Men?
Well, 2.5 definitely prepared me for it. But it was, there were certain days where I'd have to pull Bruce aside or one of the writers or castmate and say, "Now hold on a minute, what happened right before this?" Just so we weren't all spun around. And there were other times when I could really only tell which part of the episode or which actual episode we were in based on the wardrobe that I was wearing.
Yeah.
So it was radically challenging. I don't recommend anybody do that many shows in that short amount of time.
Yeah.
But somehow we did. Somehow we managed, and that was even through having to replace our lead gal about halfway through.
Yeah.